Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. Why is the Northeast Oakland Historical Museum in the news? And learn why the folks in Leonard finally have great television reception.
Learn about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. Ron Brock, the president of Northeast Oakland Historical Society, is the host of the new show produced by OCTV called Oxford History Today. While history is the star of the show, each week, Mr. Brock walks us through 30 minutes of Oxford's past using museum artifacts as his prop educational tools. The show explores everything from a connection with the Lone Ranger to Oxford's earliest settlers and how they thrived in Michigan's harsh environment. And by the way, the show is produced, shot, and edited by our very own Russell Currier. You history buffs won't want to miss this one. The show airs on OCTV, Charter Channel 191, and AT&T Channel 99, Monday through Friday at 1:30 p.m., Saturday 10:30 a.m., and Sunday 1 p.m. Don't miss it.
And speaking of Charter Channel 191, the village of Leonard will no longer be watching us on Charter Channel 19. Charter has upgraded the community so that they may now watch us in high definition digital rather than the old school analog. Basically, that means Leonard residents will get a better picture, but they now must catch us on Channel 191, the better to see us with. To receive the new digital transmission, however, Charter requires a digital cable converter box. That needs to be installed for every television receiver in your home. For the rest of you folks in Addison Township and surrounding viewership, your analog systems are scheduled to be upgraded as well. The process is currently being engineered, so there's no word yet on when that change will take place, but it will happen.
In this background picture, Oxford Village Police Sergeant Mike Sowald on the right and retired policeman Captain Jim Malcolm stand next to a new plaque honoring Oxford's 1925 night watchman John J. Gould. As you will recall, in the fall we reported that Sergeant Sowald set out on a mission to honor the the watchman was gunned down in 1925 on the corner of Burdick Street and M24. The killers were never brought to justice, and Gould's service to the Oxford community might have been long forgotten if not for efforts of Oxford police officer Mike Sowald and other officers who championed the cause to recognize his predecessor. Finally, the proper tribute is given to John J. Gould in the form of a beautiful black marble plaque located at the spot where Gould was killed by an unknown gunman. The plaque can be seen on the front wall of the Northeast Oakland Historical Museum building, which in 1925 was the Oxford Bank building where he was killed.
Here's a local economic update for you. According to Lansing, in the past 5 years, Oxford's new builds have increased significantly. Within that same period of time, however, the report documents that local household incomes were worst hit in Oakland and Genesee counties over that same period of time. While the villages of Goodrich and Ortonville household incomes were among the worst in Oakland County, the housing market declined and decreased home values had a direct impact on public services. The good news is Oxford's household income did not decline as significantly, and the increased new builds have helped us sustain public services in our area.
At the Oxford Village Planning Commission's first meeting of the new year, discussion continued regarding a proposed 76-unit condominium project at 98 Glaspie Street. Prior to hearing public comments on the Glaspie Street property, attorney Bob Davis set the stage.
You're asking your questions or analyzing this project both on the side of the table and the public. Although it's been described as being constructed in phases, you really have to look at this as if you're approving the whole thing at once, as if upon approval the entire project would be constructed, not just phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It will take time for those phases, but from a review standpoint, we're reviewing this in its overall depiction on the plan.
Davis also made it clear that the Village Council would have final approval of the project and not the Planning Commission.
As I do with other bodies, I want to encourage you that this is not the last set of meetings you should be attending. If you have something to say on this issue, you need to bring it to the village council meetings as well, who will be hearing all of these same issues as they analyze whether or not they're going to concur with a recommendation or a recommendation for approval or denial or with conditions.
Several area residents voiced their concerns.
I'm not happy with what I actually see today. It's going to completely overcrowd the street. I mean, we already have, 18 to 20 houses right now, and you put 76 units up, multiply that by 2 to 4 people in each of those apartments, that's really overcrowding.
How are you going to guarantee that the debris from demolition and from construction does not get in the Round Lake?
Anytime somebody proposes that they increase the density limit to 125 or 175% of what's suggested, it concerns me. And you have to look at what you're giving up and what you're getting. I feel like we're giving up the minimum size of each unit. We're giving up the overall height. We're giving up the easement to the east. And we're getting some park benches and a trail rerouted.
A subcommittee of commissioners and residents will be assembled in an attempt to move the project forward.
In addition to the Gillespie Street hearing, the Planning Commission discussed and heard concerns on the rezoning of 125 South Washington to accommodate a nearly 5,500 square foot apartment complex. Commissioner Jack Curtis listed the concerns that he had, and the contractor should address those before moving forward with the project.
We have close to 15, more like 12 conditions on this. And I'd ask the applicant if you might want to go back and consider, you're looking at non-combustible walls on the west side. You're looking at the addition of a fire hydrant. You're looking at the addition of a 3-inch to a 6-inch minimum water main. Do you want to go back and look at the price of all this, or come back with a smaller drawing, or do you want us to go ahead with all these approvals with all these conditions?
Village President Sue Basardi asked Curtis for an explanation as to why.
The short and simple answer was, I know what he was trying to do, and rather than to fight it and give all the residents that didn't want it, and the other board members' comments that stated that it wasn't a fit, I just elected to say, okay, based on what he wants to do, I would not recommend rezoning it. And it was not my own personal feelings, it was the feelings of the public hearings and the other members.
Watch OCTV minutes by minutes for further updates on these proposed projects and more in your community.
A man who purchased tickets to a Michigan State basketball game at the Palace from a guy on Craigslist told officers that he paid the man $275 for 11 tickets. The scalper told the victim the tickets could be picked up at the ticket booth in the buyer's name. Officers were told that when he went to pick the tickets up, he was told there were no tickets in his name. Officers were given the name, address, phone number of the reported thief, but when police tried to contact the offender, he could not be reached. A report was filed for insurance purposes.
I guess I could have told you the end of that story.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
You folks have
gotta
to be careful
really
out there.
Careful. Craigslist just seems to be a cesspool anymore for somebody taking somebody else.
You hear so many
It's a shame.
bad things that come
Yeah,
off that.
yeah.
There's good things, I'm sure, from Craigslist, but there's a lot of bad things you hear about.
Yeah, my son bought a really good car off of Craigslist. So yeah, there's good and bad, but something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you send me the money and you go pick up the tickets the day of game day. Forget
Right,
it.
yeah, that's good. Okay.
Anyhow, I also wanted to mention Minutes by Minutes.
Oh, that's a show I'm familiar with.
You probably are. I just can't stress enough to people. There's all that going on with the Planning Commission for the village. And I have an opinion both ways on those apartment complexes, but it really proves that when you look at those meetings and that room is full of people, the commission or whatever board it is tend to listen a little bit better, and they make less of a personal decision, and they make decisions based on what the community wants, which is what they're there for to begin with, and that's what you run for. But that gets lost very easily. So I just can't encourage people enough to, if they can't make it to those meetings, watch Minutes by Minutes, because you guys do a good job.
Well, thank you. That's very nice.
Pointing out the important stuff.
We do it in a kind of a humorous way, though.
You do, so it actually makes it a lot easier. You are making it easier for our viewers to intake the information on what our community leaders are doing for us.
There's a lot that goes on in the community that you folks really don't know unless you get involved in it. And like Terry says, if you don't speak up, these boards are not going to listen.
No.
But when you show up and, as David would put it, pitchforks and fire, then things seem to happen.
Right, it's
So, in
true,
the good.
and I would love to see more people do that, and certainly would love to see more people watching our shows. And you can watch Minutes by Minutes at our website,
Yes.
right? OCCTV.org, or on our station 191 or channel 99, and I'm sorry I don't remember what
It's okay,
times,
we're all
but-
over the place.
Yeah, we are. Or you can watch it on YouTube. But that's it for Oxford News this week. If you want to learn more about these stories and others, stop by your local store and pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader newspaper, or better yet, catch us right here again on Charter Channel 191 or AT&T Channel 99. And Leonard, you have to go to 191.
Absolutely. And that's good for you because it's digital.
Yes, it
Coming
is.
up next on Oxford Sports and Jamie Hughes, Oxford School News with John Ochins, and also Dave Kenny with Auto Talk and Science in the News.
I'm Terry Stiles, and this is Oxford News This Week, where we bring your news closer to home.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, trips to Mars call for a bit of legroom. NASA's latest budget, passed by the U.S. Congress last month, includes $55 million to develop a homely craft suitable for crewed deep space missions, such as a potential Mars voyage. Congress says that NASA should develop a prototype deep space habitation module no later than 2018 for use with the Orion spacecraft and SLS rocket system now being developed. Orion is designed to carry astronauts into deep space, but it is little bigger than the Apollo capsule, which astronauts spent a week in during the moon missions. Its cramped conditions would make an 18-month Mars mission hard to bear. Although NASA has over decades built many designs for modules similar to those on the International Space Station, giving astronauts more room, it's not yet clear if any of these will be dusted off and put to use. NASA has 180 days after the president approves the budget to report back to Congress on its progress, so get busy. And on the science front, so you think you've got the latest periodic table charts? Not so much. Time to rip up those old posters. 4 new elements now complete its 7th row. The International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, or IUPAC, and the International Union of Pure and Applied Physics have recognized the discoveries of elements 113, 115, 117, and 118. They are the handiwork of teams in Japan, Russia, and the U.S. who smashed lighter nuclei together. The resulting super-heavy elements exist only for a fraction of a second before decaying into lighter atoms. Their discoverers will be invited to propose names for these elements based on mythology or the names of minerals, places, properties of the element, or scientist. For now, they have placeholder names and symbols. Ununtrium, unum pentrium, unum septium, unum octium. You can't stick with those things. Last time new elements made the grade was 2011 with the addition of fluoronium 114 and livermorium 116 on the periodic table. The chemistry community is eager to see its most cherished table finally completed down to the 7th row, says Jan Redjic, president of IUPAC's Inorganic Chemistry Division. The creation of super-heavy elements puts theories of economic structure to the test and one day might produce stable elements with odd properties. Wow. In our next story, wake up in the middle of the night and you're still hungry? Well, think about this. Whether it's a post-party kebab or a midnight fridge raid, we are all guilty of eating when we should be sleeping. As well as ruining our waistlines, a study in mice suggests our brains may suffer too. Mice are nocturnal and eat throughout the night. To find out what happens when this pattern is disturbed, Don Lowe and her colleagues at the UCLA fed one group of mice between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m., while another group had access to food between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. The mice ate this way for 2 weeks. Although both groups slept the same amount of time, the mice that fed during the day had more frequent, shorter bouts of sleep. Their circadian rhythms were out of sync, which affected levels of proteins, including one important one for learning and memory. The misaligned mice also performed less well on memory tests. The study is the first evidence that the timing of meals might affect learning and memory. It is too soon to say whether those of us who indulge in late-night eating will suffer the same effects, although Lowe thinks her findings might apply to people. Night shift workers, for example, have been shown to perform less well on cognitive tests. Wow. In our last story, well, that's a relief. Your home is crawling with bacteria, but more of the bugs you breathe come in from tap water than the toilet. Marisa Mileto and Stephen Lindo at the University of California in Berkeley have mapped the microbes circulating in 29 homes in California. Taking samples from kitchen surfaces, shower heads, bathroom tiles, carpets, pets, and people, the team found that one of the most common sources of airborne bacteria in these homes was outside air. This is a good thing, says Mileto. The air accounted for 16.5% of the bugs, while floors and carpets contributed nearly 20%, probably because walking across a floor or vacuuming stirs up these bacteria into the air. Thankfully, few airborne bacteria seem to be whipped up by flushing a toilet. Only 0.4% of them were traced back to the toilet bowl, far less than the almost 9% that came from tap water. All these bacteria are likely to be mostly beneficial. Exposure to a diverse array has been linked to better health. So, belly up to the faucet for another glass of good old cheap tap water. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back after this.
I'm John Ochins, and welcome to the Oxford Wildcats School Update. The first Oxford School Board meeting of the new year took place last Wednesday. An election of officers was held. Dan D'Alessandro takes over as president from Jim Reese. Kim Shoemaker is vice president. Mike Schwag is treasurer, and Mark Steppa continues as secretary. They will remain in these positions for 1 year. Efforts to improve our playgrounds are in the news this week. Over in early childhood, the work is all done, save for some inspections. Teacher Pat Mueller fills us in.
They are done. By the first of the year, they were completed. We have two playgrounds. One that's been revamped and added to, and a brand new one in the back. This one's for the infant and toddlers. You can see there's space for kids to play in the sand, to climb. There's a shade structure. We have some new swings. We are thrilled. There's a little house for them to drive through on their little bikes and scooters. All that gross motor, all that activity, it's so important for their development. This is the preschool playground. So this is the one for kids who are 3 to 6. That age group, it's designed for them. Look, it has two climbing structures. There's a little house in the back. There's climbing things and balance rocks, and then of course the rock climbing wall. I have to tell you the other really cool attribute of this playground. Actually, Sue Rohr was the one who was really all about the design. She was great. She and Washia came up with the idea of having a sledding hill. So if you notice on the playground, there's kind of a gentle slope, so that kids can run in the summer down the grass and sled in the winter
and
down the hill.
Somebody mentioned to me before that you even welcome sled donations like the
absolutely, yes. Not with the metal runners. Right. They can't have that. But yes, we would love to have them. The more the better.
Parent Melissa Williams heads a committee to collect funds to improve playgrounds at Daniel Axford and Oxford Elementary. Right now, they're involved in a cannon bottle drive they want you to know about.
We started this about this time at the beginning of last year. We saw that there was a need for the playground, and we were surprised to hear that there's not a lot of funding for playgrounds. It's a really expensive. We had no idea how expensive it is for playgrounds. So we got together and we just decided that we were going to raise as much money as we can to put some new equipment in.
Okay, so the latest phase of all this is the can drive, which we're looking at the sign for right now, and it's going on this week. But then it's actually going to go longer than this week, isn't it?
Yes, we'll take can donations year long. We have 2 volunteers in town, one in Waterstone and one in a neighborhood over off of Drainer, off of 24, who have a odd Odd Jobs can. Odd Jobs donated a can for each of the houses, and we have a continual year-long donation of cans. You can find the address to that on our Facebook page under Playground Funding.
So now's the time to clean out your garage and get rid of those empty cans and bottles and contribute them for the playgrounds, right?
Yes, because the winter, who wants to bring back cans in the winter time? It's
That's
cold. Let us do it for you.
That Facebook page again is Playground Funding. We reported last week that our middle school kids raised over $6,500 in their Penny Ward drive for the Make-A-Wish organization. We checked in with Assistant Principal Marianne Morricone to find out more.
Yesterday, I was in touch with Make-A-Wish, and their coordinator was flabbergasted that a middle school student body was able to collect and donate that much change to benefit a child in need. And the students don't know this yet, but we are working with Make-A-Wish Foundation to set up a school-wide celebration assembly where Make-A-Wish will come and they will tell the story of the child's wish that Oxford Middle School students has granted.
Marianne's goal is to have a new focus every month for the kids. We asked her what's in store for January.
Next week, our focus really is our Martin Luther King celebration. We're going to start with an introduction and some content-based exploratory activities. And then students will participate in an engaging activity on the Friday before Martin Luther King holiday, where they're going to be able to express what their dreams are for the future based on what they've learned about Martin Luther King next week.
That's OMS Assistant Principal Marianne Morricone. That's the Oxford Wildcat School News for this week. Stay tuned for Wildcat Sports. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.
Hi, I'm Talon Riddell, and I'm filling in for Jamie Hughes with sports. With a 5-2 start on the season, Oxford varsity wrestling coach Paul McDevitt expects the Wildcat Grapplers should be pretty good this year. To lead this year's team, McDevitt is depending on his senior captains Alex and Wyatt. As far as new guys, McDevitt believes it is one of the best freshman classes they have had. Out of the 40-man roster, 20 of them are freshmen. One of the team's strengths this year is the balance across the weight classes, McDevitt noted. One of the goals of the season is to continue the league championship winning streak. The Wildcats have dominated the OAA league every year since joining 5 years ago, and the prior 3 years they were league champions in the Flint Metro League, FML. The other goal this season are to win the district's regionals and ultimately win the state championship. Part of the battle-testing took place this past weekend when Oxford had a few Wildcats wrestling in the individual Detroit Catholic Central Invitation. McDevitt said the tournament was a combination of several state championships going against each other in the same weight class, as well as the best teams in Division 1, 2, and 3, all represented at the invite. Out of the 22 teams, Oxford finished 8th. Royal Oak has won the OAA Blue Division League meet for the past 2 years and was moved up this year to OAA White Division. Oxford, after losing 3 extremely valuable seniors to graduation, was moved down to OAA Blue Division this year. This led to an extremely exciting crossover meet between the two comparable teams. Oxford started with the lead after the first 2 events, but turned it over to Royal Oak after the next 3 events. After events 6, 7, and 8, there were only 1 point difference between the 2 teams, but that's when Oxford started to creep away to a 19-point win over Royal Oak. Oxford is now 3-0 and Royal Oak is now 0-3 on the season. Royal Oak and Oxford will see each other again at the Oakland County Championships on Friday, February 5th and Saturday, February 6th at Lake Orion High School. Girls hoop action. Oxford started out with a slight lead after the first and maintained it through the next 3 quarters to win 33-26. The Wildcat boys lost their 4th straight game with a 60-50 loss to Bloomfield. After a slow start, scoring just 13 points the first half. The Wildcats rallied in the second half to close the gap, but ran out of time. The Wildcats scoring leader was Jordan Jaden with 30 points. The Wildcats look to get their first win of the season at their home opener this week versus Avondale. Oxford High School boys freshman basketball fell to Bloomfield Hills High School 38-56. Keeping up with schedules and local news on Oxford sports is always at your fingertips. Go to oxfordathletics.org. Again, that is oxfordathletics.org. Just a reminder, the programs you see on OCTV can be easily viewed online or your personal device. Go to occtv.org, hit Programs tab or hit YouTube, and you can watch any of your programs on demand on your computer, iPad, or phone. Wherever you want to watch, you can catch all your sports and school programs on the weekends, Saturdays, and Sunday between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. on OCC TV or the aforementioned occtv.org. Thanks, and take care for the rest of the week. I'm Tanner Dell, filling for Jamie Hughes, and thank you very much.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, Chevrolet presented the 2017 Bolt EV at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas as a technological showcase designed for a ride-sharing future. Key elements of the Bolt have been known since General Motors showed a concept 1 year ago. About 200 miles of range for less than $30,000 after federal tax credits, set to go into production by year end. GM CEO Mary Barra on Wednesday lifted the veil on the production Bolt, which features connectivity galore and an airy interior that belies its modest size, which is slightly smaller than a Chevrolet Trax. GM designed the interior to maximize the ease of entry and exit via a low floor and slimmed down seats that it helped develop in-house. The materials have a refined feel, but were made to withstand the additional wear and tear that might come from shared use, lead designer Stuart Norris said. The interior includes features not found at that price, including a 10.2-inch color touchscreen in the center stack. It has a redesigned Chevrolet MyLink infotainment system that is customizable, allowing the users to set icon locations to their liking. The navigation system can show routes that maximize the vehicle's electric range and locations of nearby charging stations. The rear-view mirror uses a camera to provide an augmented wide-angle view, a feature also included on the forthcoming Cadillac CT6. It also includes a 360-degree bird's-eye view of the car's surroundings. Engineers said it will cover 0 to 60 miles per hour in less than 7 seconds, and that's pretty zippy. And at Volvo needed potent computers to steer the 100 self-driving cars that it plans to send onto the roads of its hometown in Gothenburg, Sweden in 2017. For the high-profile Drive Me project, a key step of Volvo's goal of eliminating fatalities in its car by 2020, the automaker turned to NVIDIA Corporation, the Silicon Valley chipmaker said Wednesday, as it unveiled the latest version of its autonomous driving supercomputer here at the CES Technology Conference. Volvo's decision to use the computer from NVIDIA, best known for building high-powered graphics cards for video gaming, shows the staggering amount of processing power that may be necessary to guide self-driving cars as they encounter combinations of obstacles that no other car has ever encountered before. NVIDIA says its water-cooled, lunchbox-sized supercomputer called the Drive PX2 packs the power of 150 MacBook Pro laptops from Apple Incorporated. During a presentation, NVIDIA CEO Yunsun Huang said that in a matter of days, the Drive PX2 can be trained using deep learning techniques to identify objects more effectively than software written by human programmers over the course of years. Wow. And at poor old Volkswagen, Volkswagen Group assumed that it will have to buy back about 115,000 cars in the United States as a result of the emissions scandal, a German newspaper reported. VW expects to have either to refund the purchase price of about a fifth of the 580,000 diesel vehicles affected or offer a new car at a significant discount, a Süddeutsche Zeitung report said on January 7th. The automaker expects that the rest of the vehicles will need major refits, incurring significant costs for parts and a long stay at the garage as parts of the exhaust must be reconstructed and approved, the newspaper reported. On Tuesday, VW brand chief Herbert Diess said he was confident the automaker would reach agreement with the U.S. regulators to bring affected diesel vehicles into compliance with U.S. emission laws. Diess said fixing older VW cars equipped with 2-liter diesel engines would be more difficult than bringing more recent models into compliance. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency said on Wednesday that the recall discussions with the company have not produced an acceptable way forward. EPA continues to insist that VW develops effective, appropriate remedies as expeditiously as possible. The U.S. Justice Department on Monday sued Volkswagen for up to $48 billion for allegedly violating U.S. environmental laws. The Süddeutsche Zeitung also reported about 50 employees, including several division heads, had come forward as part of an internal amnesty program to help the company clear up the scandal. Dee said Volkswagen expected the company would be able to repair by the end of 2016 about 8.5 million diesel cars sold in Europe that did not comply with emissions standards. That's a lot of work. Well, that's all for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highways. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.